Hello, it's Ryan from 2minutetennis.net, and in this video, I'm going to go step by step how to hit a serve. I'm going to go over the grip, the body movements, the racket movements, and I hope you learn a few things along the way that improve your serve. Now, first, we're going to look at the grip. The grip you should use is a Continental. Now, the Continental grip is where you put the base knuckle of your index finger and your heel pad on panel number 2. So you'll take the base knuckle, the heel pad, and you'll put them on this 45-degree angle bevel. If you're a lefty, you're going to put both of these on the other side. So obviously, it's going to be your left hand, but this is the Continental grip for a lefty. Now, what I like to use to instruct people on the serve are checkpoints. There are 7 serve checkpoints. These are moments in time where you can stop the video if you film yourself and you can look for certain things. So let's go over the 7 checkpoints. First, we have the ready position of the serve. Next, we have what I call palm down, this position right here. Then we've got checkpoint number 3, which is knock off the birthday hat. This is called on edge. Then contact, pronated, and then the finish. So it's those 7 positions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All right, so let's go to the ready position on the serve. You can see my feet. My front foot is slightly in front of my back foot, and my feet are kind of like on a skateboard toward the target. And when I have the Continental grip, you'll notice that my racket face is open. I'm a big fan of starting with the racket face slightly open because it actually promotes the proper grip. You can tell when people have more of a forehand grip because their strings are like this, facing down toward the ground. So if you're someone who starts serving with your strings facing very much down toward the ground, you most likely, and I'm going to say, 98% chance that you have a forehand grip, an Eastern, maybe even a semi-Western. So you're definitely going to struggle hitting your best serves if you have those grips. So just start with your racket face slightly open on your serve, right? So when you have your string slightly open, it promotes that base knuckle and heel pad on panel number 2. So the way we get to checkpoint number 2, which is the palm down, is you'll notice I'm doing what's called, or what I call, turn, toss, salute. So the first move is my weight starts to shift back and I start to turn. Now, all pros toss and turn. It just depends on the order in which they do it. I like to turn first before tossing because I like a lower toss. I like to toss low, which gives me less time to swing, and that forces me to swing fast. It's an easy way to get racket speed. So you will see some pros who toss and then turn. Think of like a Diego Schwartzman, Serena Williams are players who will toss and then turn their body, but I'm a big fan of reversing that and turning first. Then I toss the ball. Now you'll see that my toss is around the top of my head. Now that changes based on players. Some players toss a little bit lower. You look at a Nadal, you look at Sam Groth, they have a release point that's a little bit lower, but as long as it's around eye level and you're tossing into the court slightly to the right of you if you're right-handed, around 1 o'clock, like somewhere around here, that's a good thing. Now, when you're doing this, we talked about turn, toss, salute. When you turn and then when you toss, you also want to be bringing your racket arm up at a similar time. You can see that my arms are going up at a similar time, but I'm leading with the toss because we want to create the environment for racket speed. So if the ball goes up first, then my racket is late, right? And I have to swing fast in order to catch up to the ball. And that's, again, an easy way to create the environment where a fast racket produces a good result. Hey, we'll get back to that video in just a second, but first, if you would like me to personally fix your technique once and for all, maybe it's your serve or your forehand or your backhand that you feel like is holding you back, or actually maybe you hit the ball fine, but it just doesn't translate into wins on the court, we can analyze your match strategy. Or maybe it's your footwork or you're just not split stepping, whatever it is, we can fix it with a private Zoom lesson. I want you to click the link below in the description and sign up at a time that's convenient for you. Sign up for a private Zoom lesson. You'll send me videos, we'll meet live on Zoom, and I'll show you a side-by-side comparison between you and your technique and the pros, and how you can gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. By the way, this is the best tennis lesson you will ever have, guaranteed. I will put a private Zoom lesson up against any
in-person lesson you can ever take. Go below, sign up for a private Zoom lesson in the description. Well, I shouldn't say do that right now because I want you to watch the rest of this video. So after you watch the video, click that link below in the description. Talk to you soon.
Now, when I bring my racket up, I want you to notice very carefully, this is a good place to check it. I want you to notice my wrist position and how it's basically curled over. And now it's not an active curl. It's just that I'm leading up with the back of my wrist. Sometimes I give lessons to students and they have a wristband on. And I say, look, when you lift your racket up, try to lead with the wristband. And you can see that curl in my wrist. One thing is when you lift the racket, try to have the tip of the racket below your hand. This helps you get into this checkpoint 2 position, which is palm down. This is where my strings are facing down, my palm is facing down, and it keeps you out of the waiter's tray position. The waiter's tray position is when your racket's back here and your strings are pointing up. That's typically because when people begin the toss, their racket is then above their hand, where the racket's like this. So I'm going to draw this. Here's my racket down. They usually have the tip of the racket pointing up at this point, and then the racket lays open, strings up, and it just causes major problems. So when you turn, toss, salute, you rock your weight on your back foot, you turn your body and coil. You'll be able to uncoil later on. You turn, you release the ball. You can see I'm lifting the ball up with only my shoulder, not flicking the wrist, not rolling the ball off my fingertips. I'm just releasing the ball up into the air, but I'm leading up with the back of my wrist, keeping the racket tip down below my hand. That basically ensures the fact that I am not going to go into that waiter's tray. Now, from this position, this is where my racket is going to pass in over my head. If you've been watching any of my stuff, you know for a long time I've been promoting using a birthday hat, where the racket passes in over your head with your strings pointing slightly down. And you can see that. So look at my racket passing in over my head. If I was wearing a birthday hat, I would hit the birthday hat. I would knock the birthday hat off of my head from front to back. This makes you draw a circle around your head, almost like the racket is a helicopter blade or like a lasso, and it's going to circle around your hand. What you don't want is the racket to travel up over the hand. You want the racket to travel around your hand, which is what makes it pass in over your head. Now, when I released the ball, this is about the time, and I don't have great knees. My knees hurt a lot, so I don't have great knee bend on my serve. It's just one of the many, probably dozens of reasons why I'm not on the Pro Tour. Probably thousands of reasons I'm not on the Pro Tour. But when I don't have a tremendous amount of knee bend, but the little knee bend that I do use, I start bending my knees when the ball comes out of my hand. So you can see now I'm fully bent. Now at this point right here, right? So you can kind of see it in my pants where my legs, my pants are bent. But watch, as the racket passes in over my head, that's when I go up with my body. So the proper timing of leg use is when you release the ball, begin the knee bend, and then as the racket passes in over the head, begin going up. And if I draw a straight line across the top of my hat, you'll see that. Watch how my hat goes up above that yellow line as the racket passes in over my head. So my racket passes over my head, and that's when I begin exploding up. You want to do that because it helps maximize whatever shoulder stretch you can create, getting the racket to go down and swing around. It just makes for an explosive throwing motion into the serve. So really look out for that on your serve, that when the ball comes out of your hand, that's when your knees bend. And then when the racket passes in over the head, that's when your legs begin driving up. Now at this point, your racket, once the racket passes in over the head, that's when your tossing arm should begin to drop. It's when the body goes up. It's when the racket comes in over the head. That's when you begin exploding up with your body. And that's when your racket should come around and be on edge. This is checkpoint number 4. So at this point, it should look like you're going to use the edge of the racket with the strings facing off to the left if you're right-handed. This is a supinated position that's going to require pronation into contact. Here my strings are facing off to the left, and I'll just show you that pronation. After contact, you can see my strings have fully turned, and now my strings are facing off to the right. So there's basically 360 degrees of movement here. My racket is traveling 180 and my strings are changing where they're facing by 182. That's why I'm 180 as well. That's why how I'm getting the 360. My strings face off to the left and my strings face off to the right in basically 180 degrees of movement of my racket. That's going to be the snap that's really going to use all of that energy that you've created into the serve and pop it into contact. It's almost like shaking up a champagne bottle. This is the way I explain it. That all of this is like taking a champagne bottle and shaking it up. And at this moment right here, you uncork it. And you just uncork the champagne bottle and you get this big explosion into contact. I am leading slightly with the right edge. I'll tell you this. You want to lead slightly with the right edge, even on your flat serves. Do this. You want to add a tiny bit of side spin to your serve as a controller. You don't want to think of flat serves as truly being flat. You want to hit your flat serves with a tiny bit of side spin just to add that little bit of control. I'm keeping my head up. You can see I'm actually tucking my tossing arm in against my body at this point. And you can see my back leg start to kick up since I was leaning into the court. It's just a nice little balance point. Let's go to the next serve here. Same thing. Bounce the ball. Nice and relaxed. I've got my Continental grip. My racket face is slightly open. Turn, toss, salute. And it's like I'm saluting, like I'm in the military, and I'm saluting with my palm coming toward my head. My strings are pointing down. My racket passes in over my head. Again, the racket passing in over the head with the strings pointing down is a really important idea for amateurs. I understand not every pro tennis player does this, but it's really far away from that palm up position, and it's kind of on the other end of the spectrum, which really helps amateur players hit their best serves. You can see, again, my racket comes around on edge. Literally looks like I've got an axe and I'm going to chop it in half. But then my forearm turns. It's a natural movement that presents the strings to the ball. Again, my chest is facing up. My tossing arm is going to tuck in against my body. My head is looking up. And then I keep turning. You can see the pronation again. My strings are facing off to the right. I'm tucking my non-hitting arm, my tossing arm in against my body. That's a reactive break. I slow my body's rotation down to help accelerate my racket. And there's my back leg kicking up. Kind of looks like I'm hugging myself, right? My left arm is like this. My right arm's like this, called the power X, because your arms literally draw an X in front of you. And the back leg kicks up and I fall into the court. So go out and film yourself. Check your grip. Check at the beginning that your racket face is slightly open the way I'm demonstrating. Turn your body away from your target, toss and salute. And as you lift the racket up, lead slightly with the back of your wrist. Have the wrist be the first thing that comes up, keeping the tip of the racket down below your hand. That helps delay the racket, again, making you late, but also forcing the racket to come in over your head rather than flipping over your hand. That's not what you want. You don't want to flip the racket where your strings go from facing down to facing up. You want the racket to pass in over your head. Look at Osaka. Look at Roger Federer. Look at Kyrgios. Look at Novak Djokovic. Watch these players who make a circular movement around their hand. The Continental grip brings the racket on its edge. I'm tucking my tossing arm in against my body, which helps slow my body's rotation down. And when I slow my body's rotation down, that accelerates my racket. And then that natural position where my racket is facing to the left turns into the strings facing off to the right when I'm done. Absolutely love teaching the serve to students. It's one of those shots that once you start to really hit great serves and you believe in your serve, there's no doubt, right? You're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.